name of God, emotional intelligence is an important factor in achieving success. A good director already has their emotional intelligence well developed, meaning that all their decisions are guided by intellect, allowing them to make logical and intellectual choices and never making emotional or sentimental decisions. This way, this person will have many more developed skills. One of those skills is being able to control and help reconcile others. Many times the people around us fight, argue, dispute, and do not agree, so they do not work together. Your children are fighting, your wife is arguing with your sister, your students are quarreling, your employees are debating. So how can you handle the situation? How can you bring them to an agreement? How can you convince them to reconcile 2001 among themselves? All of this is due to emotional intelligence. If you can manage your own emotions, it means not having a tendency towards one side or the other. Because when the judge is interested, no one listens to them, as it is evident that they are interested and have a tendency towards one side or the other. So this judge can never indeed effectively reconcile a problem, a conflict. So a good judge, a good mediator, a good boss is someone who can manage their own emotions. By controlling their emotions, they can then manage the emotions of others and help them reach an agreement. Because everyone, the first thing we can say logically, or the first argument they present to disagree, is that they do not understand me. They do not comprehend me. They do not listen to me. A good boss listens, understands, and comprehends. They always say, put yourself in my shoes. A good boss always puts themselves in others' shoes on issues, understanding well what they are feeling. For example, in a fight, each party understands well that their boss or this judge understands them perfectly. So they will trust this judge. That judge, by already knowing the purposes and 2020 and the reasons and the roots of this fight, already knows how to uproot the root, the main cause of the fight, already knows how to hit the mark, already knows how to reconcile, already knows how to solve a problem. Many times we cannot solve problems or disagreements between people because we do not understand them, because we do not know why there is a fight, where the fight comes from, or how to end that fight. So we need to develop emotional intelligence, the ability to control our emotions and the emotions of others in order to lead them to an agreement. Another important factor of emotional intelligence is that it will give you the likability to be a good leader, friendly, influential, and charismatic. The charismatic leaders of the world are those who feel, understand what people feel, what people say, and what people experience. So first they live among the people, and as the people want to say, they do not live an ambitious, luxurious life. No. A good leader, a true leader, is a charismatic leader whom the people love. They live like the poorest to feel what the poor feel. Imam Ali, peace be upon him, in a narration says that the leader, the Imam of society, must live like the poorest so that the poverty of the poor does not harm him. When a leader, the boss, the king is living like the poorest, then they are always worried about the bad state that they are suffering. But if someone is living a luxurious life, their belly is always full of food. They have eaten so much that they can no longer eat more, and they have no space to eat more. So how can that person understand what a poor person suffers? In Islam, it is mandatory for all believers to go through a state of poverty. What does this mean? How so? It is mandatory to fast for a month, to go hungry, to feel thirst, to understand what a poor person suffers. And at the end of this month of Ramadan, which is a mandatory month of fasting, you must pay Zakat al-Fitr. You must pay a type of obligatory charity to the poor. Now that you understand that you should not be a selfish person, a person of luxury living, you understand that the poor, your neighbors, are suffering from hunger, your employees are suffering, not just you seeking the best for yourself. Think of others. You will become a charismatic leader, a beloved leader. Many revolutionary leaders in Latin America started this way, but unfortunately they ended up in the palaces, which caused a separation between the people and these leaders. Because when they are suffering from hunger and sanctions due to the revolution, because of these things, and they see that their leader, their boss, their president, whoever it may be, is living the best life, their children are enjoying what they have taken from the revolution, what they have taken from the people. One of their children is studying in England, another has a Mercedes-Benz, and another has a Lamborghini. And what would people say? They say, look, they do not understand how we are suffering, and the people will separate from that leader, so he cannot be a good leader. And this is very interesting, that God has placed this condition as a mandatory condition for all the prophets throughout history. We have an important phrase in the supplication Nudbe, where we speak to God saying, my God, you have set an important condition for the prophets, because the prophets have come to take governance everywhere in the world. Then God says, for the prophets who wanted to take political leadership, religious leadership, you have set a condition which is azod. Azo means abstinence from material things, which means not being ambitious, living as modestly as possible, having a modest life, a humble life, living like the poorest, eating what the common people eat, suffering what the people suffer. Thus, throughout history, this made the prophets more beloved individuals, more influential and charismatic leaders. And those who follow in the path of the prophets are the same. An example of this is the life of Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khomeini, the life of Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Sistani, the life of being Hassan Asolo, the life of many other religious leaders who lead a humble life, a life of blessing. We can call it a life of influence. When they speak, people obey them. And people are willing to give their lives for that leader. They love them so much, they love them from the heart. This is how Islamic leadership is, where the main characteristic in Wilaya, Islamic leadership, is the love towards that leader. That leader will be so loved by the people that they obey him from their hearts. They gladly say, we obey you, we love you from the heart. Why? Because he lives like the poorest, because he understands what they understand. Another benefit of having emotional intelligence is that a leader with well-developed emotional intelligence is always a reformist leader. They will seek to reform the situation they are experiencing. He himself is the one who will begin the reform of himself. Because if you can analyze your state intellectually, you will realize your own faults, you will become aware of your own shortcomings. Why? Because you are analyzing yourself, not with selfishness, but with intellect. The intellect will see the truth, but selfishness will make you blind and will lead you to think that the bad it has is a good thing. Egocentrism is such a dangerous poison that it will blind us and we will not see our faults. Everything wrong is due to others, and I am the best, the most perfect. Why do some people get angry or upset when they hear criticism? Because they are selfish. Because when they hear criticism, even if that criticism is realistic, even if that criticism is true, even if that criticism is correct, they get upset. Why? Because they are selfish. To be selfish, it is not necessary to be rich or have a lot of money. It may be that a person is poor, has a modest life, but is still selfish. Selfishness makes us blind. And when we do not see our faults and failures, then we will never reform ourselves. But a leader, a person who already has well-developed emotional intelligence, is a brave person. They will confront their failures, face their weaknesses, help themselves, and help their society to develop, to fight against failures, and to fight against mistakes. He is so brave. He acknowledges his mistakes. Yes, we have made mistakes. I regret it. I will not go back. I apologize. I will recover what I have lost. Because he is brave, because he makes and takes intellectual decisions, he will make the most correct decision. So they will always take the initiative to correct themselves, to reform. And they will never be comfortable with the little they receive. Why? Because he is always thinking about being bigger. He does not follow an ambition, but rather is realistic. If I am realistic, every time I account for myself, I will account. I will calculate where I am going, and what percentage of success I have achieved. Then I will never be satisfied. I will never be content and comforted by the little I have received. I will always strive to achieve more, and 2020 and beyond. Not for ambition, not for being realistic, because I see my failures, I never rejoice, I never get drunk on what I have achieved from success. There are some people who reach a tiny 1.1% of success. They have already gained something in the business, but they lose control because their emotions dominate them. They become intoxicated, turn into womanizers, corrupt and perverse, and this causes them to lose all the little success they have achieved. But a good leader, a good intelligent person who already knows how to manage their emotions, does not rejoice with little success they receive, nor do they rejoice with small gifts they receive. Instead they say, "Thank God, it's fine, we are at this point and we must fight harder." Neither does he get overly joyful to lose control when receiving something, nor does he lose control when losing something. This is what the Holy Quran says. A good believer does not become sad, does not get disappointed by what they lose, and will not rejoice or lose control over what has been given to them, what has been granted to them. And that person is always self-critical, always watching themselves, lurking for their mistakes, to correct them, because they already know, if I continue with my mistakes, I will worsen my failures. Perhaps these, we can say, negative points in my personality, in my behaviors, will deepen more and more each day. For example, if today I am going to tell a lie and I am not going to reform myself, I will not remove that lie. I will not correct my character of being a liar. Tomorrow I will repeat that lie. Tomorrow I will repeat this mistake. It means that if today I have taken a step back, moving away from my goals, then tomorrow by telling two lies I will fall even further behind and further away. And so a person will lose everything, but they will lose success. A good leader with emotional intelligence is never comfortable with what they have. They are always thinking about what they do not have, and logically striving, not ambitiously, not ambitiously, but intellectually fighting to achieve their goals. And another thing is that these people have limited relationships or communications. This person has an ability to adapt. They can communicate with anyone. 1. Positive, effective, and correct communication. It means that in every relationship, in every communication, you already know what you are looking for. Many people communicate and don't know why. Why are you communicating with so and so? I don't know, to be honest. It just happened. We met, and that's it. But a person who has emotional intelligence already knows how to start, with whom to start, how far to go, and where to set limits. That person already knows how to communicate and develop their communication skills. They do not have a closed circle of people. Instead, they have a very open circle of individuals, but they know what they are looking for. Many people who are very open, very friendly, but are crazy, are in contact with everyone without knowing why you are communicating with them. I am not talking about taking advantage of others, no. We are not talking about me using everyone to achieve my goals. No, it is that I know how to direct my communications. That is what is important. Manage your relationships, not by letting emotions control them, but by allowing your intellect to guide your communication and your relationships. A simple example, it often happens, for instance, a woman will approach you at your work, right? Or for some other reason, you are in contact with a woman. And well, as a man possessing virility, being masculine, it may be that there are feelings, that relationship, that communication awakens passion in you. For example, women by their nature seek to showcase their beauty. They seek to be more attractive, and they seek to be admired by men. So in that relationship, when you allow your relationship to be driven by your lust, your desire, your passion, then that relationship will cease to be a professional one and will turn into a betrayal against your partner. It will become a romantic relationship. And that is what has caused many bosses to lose success, their jobs, respect, fame, and then it turned into a scandal. Why have they fallen into scandal? Because of ambition, because they cannot control their emotions. In conclusion, if we can develop emotional intelligence, we can control ourselves, manage others, and regulate the relationships we have with everyone. Let's correct our relationship with our bosses, with our colleagues, and with our subordinates. All of that thanks to indeed developing a skill called emotional intelligence. It means that your emotions should not decide for you, and conversely, you decide for your emotions. Where should I fall in love? Where should I get irritated? Where and when should I love? And where and when should I hold back? Thus, you can achieve success. This is called taqwa. Taqwa means being pious. It means having self-control over your emotions. When you see a sin, even though the temptations of Satan are drawing you in, saying it is tasty, it is delightful, you should say, look at the consequences. If God has labeled this act as a sin, it is because it is harming me, so I must face the consequences. After thinking for a while, delving into the possible consequences it may have, I will always say no to sins. On the contrary, a person driven by emotions 2001, by ambitions, by lust, that person becomes like a scandalous person, a lost person, a failed person, an unfaithful person, a traitorous person, bribed, an oppressive person. All bad characters come from that. That is the key word. The love for mundane things. That tendency, when you let it go, is so wild that it will destroy your life and lead you to all the failures. In the next class, we will talk about emotional intelligence and being nervous in life, how to control a state of nervousness in life. In the next class, we will discuss this. Malikum.